Alright, well, the Eagles signed a promising nickel cornerback while beating out multiple teams' offers. And hopefully Howie Roseman can do the same with Justin Simmons, as the latest reports suggest multiple teams are waiting on the All-Pros price to drop. Plus, Philly's showing serious interest in the fastest wide receiver from the Combine. Oh yeah, Howie also signed another speedster to the roster, while lining up a couple more intriguing top 30 visits, and the latest Haason Reddick update. So let's talk about it. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? So let's start with the NFL's rule change proposals, which will be voted on next week at the owners' meetings, with the Eagles submitting 2 of the 10. First off, requesting to eliminate the first touch spot after the receiving team possesses the ball, and the next ask being to basically do away with the onside kick. Essentially, what they're trying to do is ask for a 4th and 20 from your own 20-yard line, and then if you convert that, then you just get the ball back. By the way, for those wondering, Philly did request this last year, but it got turned down. And considering the moves the Birds have made, if I'm any other team, I'm probably voting no on that one. But there's actually several other interesting proposals there as well, like giving a team a third challenge, reviewing fouls inside 2 minutes, as well as the clock being expired before snaps. However, one request that was met with quite a bit of backlash was the competition committee suggesting that the hip drop technique be banned completely from the game, where officials can use their judgment on if a player intentionally tried to hurt someone via the hip drop. Understandably, Slay and many other players don't like it, because yeah, the idea of allowing a ref's subjectivity to dictate if a tackle should be deemed a first down and 15-yard penalty seems like it could get out of hand.
Yeah, we'll know when we see it. I like it.
Personally, I don't like it, because for one, this is football, but also, you're going to see some guys make terrible tackling attempts, and honestly, you might see guys get injured more because they're trying to shy away from the contact. Anyway, what do you guys think about all those rule change proposals? Again, maybe it makes even more sense that Howie Roseman's gone so heavily invested in the offense because, he's just trying to not give the ball back ever. I don't know if that works, but it was pretty cool to see Saquon Barkley sharing from his first 24 hours as an Eagle.
I remember one time when I was with the Giants and we lost to Philly in the playoffs. We went to diner to get some breakfast, and there was a bird, and she was like, "Daddy, oh no, oh no." And I'm like, "What is it?" She points to the bird, and she was like, "It's the Eagles, it's the Eagles." And me and Anna, we just started laughing, and I just put my head down and just kind of start shaking. So when I told her that we're going to be going to Philly, she kind of was just like, "Does that mean we're going to win now?" And I just started smiling again, and I was like, hopefully we can win some more games here.
I can appreciate him keeping it humble, but I think it's safe to say there's going to be a lot more winning, which is the same thing for this channel because we are almost to 50,000 subscribers. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that sub button, since the real ones already know, but I gave away game tickets to several different games, jerseys, memorabilia, and just about everything else you can think of from the Eagles Pro Shop. But you gotta be a subscriber to win those giveaways. So do yourself a favor and do me a favor to reach that 50K mark. Alright, back to Saquon. It's starting to sink in that he's an Eagle and this offense has so many weapons. Although Howie Roseman may not be done adding to the offense. After just about everyone was in attendance at Texas's pro day, such as wide receiver coach Aaron Moorhead and linebackers coach Bobby King. Naturally, as Anthony DeBona shared, King was likely there to see Texas linebacker Jalen Ford due to his upside as a coverage linebacker. Yet the Moorhead attendance is kind of interesting, considering the fact that Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy are the main prospects to watch when it comes to the draft. And while Mitchell feels pretty unrealistic based on his expected draft position, maybe Worthy isn't so impossible after all. Since, it's hard to not consider a guy who ran the fastest time of the Combine in NFL history. Now, personally, I don't think that's the right move to make considering all the holes we have to fill, like cornerback and safety and another linebacker and an offensive tackle, probably
Every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
Fine, you're right. Could you imagine A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside with Xavier Worthy as your wide receiver 3? He did play nearly 200 snaps from the slot, so the potential's there. Plus, for those wondering or questioning if Worthy's just a burner and nothing more, Jordan Schultz shared that one executive told him he's a video game. It's like 99 speed in Madden, but he's not just a straight line guy, he's also twitchy and fluid. Now, the main knock on him, obviously for those that have watched him play, is his physicality, since a more dominant press corner can effectively take him out of the play. And yeah, while I'll still say it's highly unlikely that Howie goes after Worthy, we know the GM loves his offense. But I guess I'm curious though, let's say that the Birds do take Worthy. What's the highest that you'd be comfortable with them selecting him? Now, I'll at least mention that's not the only wide receiver getting the Philly interest, though, with Texas A&M's Aniyah Smith not only being scouted at his pro day, but also getting an invite for a top 30 visit, according to Ryan Fowler. And if you're not familiar with this guy, he is a competitor and someone the Eagles could use in a variety of different ways, and he feels a little bit more realistic in terms of an option, since Smith's actually got a top 30 visit. And just in case you're wondering why that's so important, as Anthony pointed out, Philadelphia selected 7 players in last year's draft, and 4 of their 5 selections had top 30 visits. I'm not saying Xavier Worthy's impossible, but they better look at bringing him in for a visit. Of course, yes, they did have an official visit with him at the Combine, so at least there's that. Plus, remember, he and Desean Jackson share a couple similarities.
I also compare myself to anybody. I model my game after Desean Jackson. So I feel like that was really like my go-to, like whatever I needed, like to look at film or anything, I'll look at him.
Philadelphia Eagles, you better go get that boy ASAP.
You think? Why?
I mean, he possibly be the next D-Jack, man. You know, if he idolized me growing up, he don't watch. And I think he could do it. If anybody could do it, he got the routes, he got the size, he got the heart, and he got the speed. So, I mean, going to strike him. It don't too many come. Then they be D-Jack. So if he might be D-Jack, go grab him.
You see yourself in this kid.
A lot of similarities for sure. But, you know, that's a stretch. 15 years, the records. But I do see similarities. So, you know, the workload is a lot. It's heavy. It's hefty.
Look, I'm with you. Who wouldn't love to see D-Jack 2.0 out there on the field? And like I said, this offense is practically unstoppable, but this would just push it over the top into ultimate team mode. It's just there's so many mouths to feed as it is that I don't know that you're really maximizing your immediate draft impact to take a guy like Worthy, depending on who's there. I want to make that clear, depending on who's there. However, if we're going off additional visits, then perhaps Kieran Magadige, I'm sure I didn't say that correctly, but the O-lineman from Yale was seen with the Eagles' Northeast area scout as Magadige put up 21 reps in the bench press. And based on some research I've done, it looks like he'd be a potential 3rd-round pick, so there's some possibility. Although the Birds continue to do their homework on the interior offensive lineman, which feels like a for sure lock we're getting someone within the first couple rounds, with him also scouting UConn guard Christian Haynes during the pro day. I mean, we've talked about it before, but I don't think Stoutland just loves the option of Tyler Steen. Sure, he's serviceable as a fill-in option, yet honestly it feels like he just wants to go the route of getting a solidified guy who can come in and start next to Juergens and Lane from day one. And who knows, maybe one of these guys ends up being who we get in exchange for something from a Haason Reddick trade, with Howie continuing to call around about potential trade options.
At this point in time, it's just a question of if and when somebody's going to step up and give them the right offer, and until they do, they're not going to move them. I think they're determined to get what they want, which wouldn't be an overly amount of compensation, and they're not going to move him until then.
Now, obviously, I'm not sure that all of y'all caught my sarcasm when referencing Haason Reddick in a trade or him staying here because, yes, I realize one player is not an end-all be-all. Plus, if you wanted a little more optimism for Haas's replacement and not only being a pass rusher, well, here you go.
So this is a good job playing the run from Huff. I really like this strike out of him here. Does a great job of two-gapping Driscoll. Really good strike, really good extension, and then I like his eyes in the backfield here. He sees the running back cutting up inside of him, does a really good job shedding the right tackle and getting in on this play. So like I said, even though he's primarily a pass rush specialist, or at least he was for the Jets in 2023, he has the ability to do a good job against the run, and he will definitely be asked to be a 3-down player in Philadelphia. I think he'll excel in Fangio's defense as an edge run defender. You know, it's a good role for him.
Someone asked me on the last live stream which of the signings of the Big Four is going to be the most impactful and that I like the most. And I don't know, it's a great question, but I might have to say the new Agent Zero. However, let's not discount the fact that Howie may be good for one more big signing, with the cap space being somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 million even after these new deals hit. Of course, the thought's been thrown out there that former Colts safety Julian Blackmon may be where Howie's shifting his sights, especially with him being 25 years old and going along the same lines of the Eagles wanting to stay younger, which makes sense. Except as you're probably well aware, Blackmon has dealt with a slew of injuries, so that's part of the concern. And I'm also not giving up on Sidney Brown. So instead of signing the former 3rd-round pick, why don't we just stick with our 3rd-round pick and invest in him? And come on, really no better way to do that than bringing in Justin Simmons on a 1-year deal. Because seriously, who better to help Sidney learn Fangio's system and expectations than an all-pro who's absolutely flourished in his scheme? Plus, it's not like you're hurting Brown by allowing him to ease back into next season, given the ACL injury, and then after a year of tutelage, he can take over next to CJ Gardner-Johnson and you can let Simmons go. Now, yeah, obviously it comes down to money, as it always does with multiple teams engaged in the bidding war for the 30-year-old, leaving Adam Schefter unsure about Simmons' future.
I don't have a projected home for you right now. I think in part because the safety market has been so crowded. If you go back and look, that may have been the most crowded position there in running back. And the run on running backs went on early, but the safeties are still out there. And Justin Simmons is going to be pretty selective as a guy who's intercepted more passes than any player in the league since 2018. So he can afford to be a little bit selective. I don't know where he's going to wind up right now. I don't have a home to give you for Justin Simmons, but again, you look at the safeties that have been out there. Jamal Adams is still out there. Other safeties still out there. Justin Simmons still out there. don't have a home for you right now.
Despite Schefter not having a home for him, it is worth pointing out that he said it's a collective vision between Howie Roseman and Vic Fangio, and if Vic says he likes that guy, then Howie does what he can to make it work, which is why Adam Kaplan shared the Eagles still have interest in Fangio's former safety and will definitely be adding at least one more safety to the roster. So the sides are without question having talks and negotiating, and like I've said, the later this thing gets, the better it is. Like, come on, I mean, we just said it, but if Howie Roseman wants a guy, he gets his guy. Anyway, with all that being said, if you could choose between Simmons, Blackman, or really any other safety, who are you going with? One official signing that we can report is Philly added free agent cornerback Tyler Hall, who's a 4-year vet, having most recently played the last 2 years with the Las Vegas Raiders, where he lined up almost exclusively in the slot. And honestly, there's a lot to like about the 2020 undrafted free agent. Granted, it's a small sample size, but Nick Waters pointed out that among 50 corners, Hall ranked 8th in completion percentage allowed, 1st in yards per target, 9th in passer rating, 2nd in forced incompletions, while also having 0 missed tackles. I mean, all of that's great, but honestly, the last part about no missed tackles is phenomenal. So it makes sense that Andrew DeCecco would say the Eagles view the 5'10", 190-pound corner as their potential nickel, and that they also beat out multiple teams on offers for him. And this move is really not that surprising. I mean, let's not forget, Howie said going all the way back to the Combine that the team had lacked this area, and we watched it, we know it, because you take a look at all the guys we had coming in and try to be serviceable at that role, but you add a low-risk, high-reward type of player and see if this thing works. And yeah, let's not forget about Isaiah Rodgers, who could certainly win out at that spot as well. But I'm just glad that we're addressing this now rather than later in the year. Another signing to mention is that the Eagles agreed to a 1-year deal with former Giants wide receiver Parris Campbell, who does fit the burner category, as the former second-round pick is in the 4.340 range. But he hasn't ever really reached that potential, playing with the Colts for 4 seasons, amounting around 900 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then most recently played 12 games last year for New York, where the 26-year-old caught 20 passes for 104 yards. So yeah, probably more of just a depth signing and adding competition to the roster, but again, at least Howie's doing everything he can to bring in as much low-risk, high-reward competition here. But let me know what you think about the move. Alright, reminder, no Friday night hangout because my brother's getting married, so I'm going to be at his wedding, but should have regular shows and we'll have the regular schedule for the lives next week. Oh yeah, come on, hit that sub button, almost to 50K. This has been the Philly Special.